was just an eye-opening experience. There was a ship coming over the house.
It was like a white light sort of thing that we saw. It was coming out of a cloud.
This is ASDP ufologist Terry Ledge from Oregon. You're watching the Mothership Alien Strand podcast with your host, Donald Ledesma.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Alien Strand Podcast. I'm your host, Don Ledesma, and welcome to today's show. Man, I am glad you guys made it today. I have a special guest coming on here shortly, but I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So, our guest is Viviane, and she's going to be talking about a lot of her like a hybrid, with Arcturians, things like that. So, but she's going to get into more detailed information about her background, what she's about. I believe she's an author too, and she's got some websites as well. And we're going to put you guys, we're going to bring you guys all the way to where she's at. All right. So, but I just want to welcome everybody to Alien Strand Podcast. I'm glad you guys are here with us today. I know that you guys caught the past podcasts. All right. So the first one was with Disclosure with Mr. Brian to Sing. I hope you check that out. That's about the conference that's coming up here pretty soon. And then I had one with the UFO news. All right. So if you guys are watching tonight, you're watching actually on YouTube, Twitch. You're watching on Facebook. Hello. You're watching right here as well. So we try to get a lot of information to these platforms as much as possible. Of course, on the audio, we are live right now on Spreaker. And then, of course, it'll be on 20 other platforms after today. So you'll be listening back, and you can actually watch these on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, click us a like and subscribe, all right? And then we'll be able to... just kind of grow a little bit as you guys, tag along with us today. So, I hope you guys caught these past podcasts as well. Today, of course, is going to be Signals Astral Meetings. That's what I call it today, with Viviane, I believe it's Chauvet, right? I think that's the way I say it. I don't know if that's right, but I'll let her correct me here in a minute. So she'll be on here shortly. Like I said, the podcast we had before with Mr. Brian to Sing, go catch that on all the Spotify, iHeartRadio, all these podcasts, audio platforms. You'll be able to catch it there. Google and ask Alexa. She'll play you for some Alien Strand podcasts. All right. So don't forget to catch my ebook. It's still floating out there. CE5. It's a small guidebook. Kind of shows you how to do CE5s. I just released it a couple of weeks ago, and it's floating out there. It's helping people out there. I'm getting some good feedback on it. Thank you guys for purchasing the book. I really appreciate you guys for that. Don't forget ASDP is Alien Strand Disclosure Project. There's no I in team. We all work together as a team, all right? So if you need to contact us there, ASDP-UFO.com. Check us out there, or Alien Strand at alienstrand.com. Go check us out there, all right? And don't forget our Middle Tetralogy. It's still out there. The first movie and the second movie is out already. Part 3, I actually uploaded it today to Amazon Prime. You can actually watch the middle on Vimeo already. So you can actually watch Part 2 there. Part 3 will be released here shortly after, all right? So, I want you guys to keep an open mind of what we're going to talk about today. And I'm glad you guys are watching out here today. And we always have an open mind. Keep your eyes in the sky, watch out for UFOs and all the good stuff out there. And if you guys are listening out there right now live, if you guys are some truck drivers, whatever, be safe on the road. Thank you guys for listening to Alien Strand Podcast. If you got to get out, take a picture or video, step out of the vehicle, do it where it's safe to do so, and take your video and photos. All right, we really appreciate you guys to be safe. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get our guest on the show right now. All right, so here we go. All right, hi Viviane.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi Donald. I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. I'm going like 100 miles an hour, like I always do. it's just one of those.
That.
No, I know. But thank you for being on the show today. I know you've been doing a couple of documentaries, right? You're on a few documentaries out there, and you of course you have your own websites, and let's everybody introduce you and tell everybody what you're about and what you do.
Yes, thank you so much. And it's a perfect energy to introduce to your listener and your audience. I am a nocturnal being and in a human hybrid form. So it is really much part of who I am. I'm part of a delegation known as the Octurians. Okay. And who are the Octurans? We are one of the most enlightened and spiritually advanced intergalactic groups who have been interacting with this quadrant, the solar system, for well over 3 million years.
Wow!
So we've been around for a very long time, and so I am part of this delegation. I started my journey originally as an Arcturian being, and once we start to realize, as we were monitoring the timeline in the solar system, we start to realize that the Earth, or Mother Gaia, this planet, was going to enter into a higher probability of a reascension timeline. So what I did is I consulted with our group of elders, a council of elders that were very ancient beings. Think of them as the wise ones that we go and consult with. And I said, instead of sending out a soul emanation of myself, and I would simply re-embody as a starseed in a human form and live as a human, but as a starseed, I would like to retain the full aspect of my Arcturian self, but in a humanized hybrid form. And so what it means is that the hybrid part of myself, Donald, is my physical body.
Okay.
I am this beautiful being, and of course the image you're showing, it's not exactly what we look like, but I love this image. It's very friendly, very loving.
Yes.
We look different than that, but I like this depiction. So imagine this being said, I want to be on a planet with you. So how can I be on a planet and being able to function onto a planet with a certain density field and a gravitational field? How can I be here and still being able to function? So the best solution we came up with was to perfect a vessel with our advanced organic technology to create a physical vessel that will allow me to introduce myself into the humanized biological experience as a human on the planet, or at least looking a lot like a human, so that you can feel more familiar with this rather than the image you see on the picture. And then I could bring in directly an aspect of my Arcturian avatar self into this very specialized engineer vessel, and then be on the planet so I can do my work more on the ground rather than remain as an intergalactic being communicating with more human beings and doing work that way. And why did I choose to do this? Well, first, number one, we knew that by re-entering the biological, physical reality of the human race, I would have a much more direct, positive, more impactful connections with humans, all life evolving here and on the planet herself. And of course, we understood that we would be more effective in our role in how we can really support humanity if I understand what it feels like to be a human first. The thing is that about Arcturians is that we're so ancient that we have evolved past a lot of the challenges that you go through right now. So when you are evolving and you are living thousands of years and you can stay in the same physical body for 1,000 of years, you forget a little bit what it feels like to go back to the ABCs. You kind of forget what it feels like to go back into a polarized, linear time construct type of realities. And you have to relearn everything that you are. So I want to be right on the planet, and it's very challenging for us to do that, because when you look at a beautiful being, and again, this is just a depiction,
Right.
but if you look at the events in the galactic cosmic being, we vibrate at such a high level that our physical form has evolved well beyond that heavy density body that you have right now. So we have evolved beyond that. So to you, we would be more of a almost like ethereal in nature. That's because our frequency field is so high that all the ions and the body energy vibrate on the luminous level. So can you imagine condensing yourself into a form that will comply to a civilization's requirement and be living on a planet that has this, there is design for that civilization, but not for you, because you come from a completely different background. So this is why I say I am an Arcturian being, but in this humanized hybrid form, so I can speak and be with you here on the planet. And I'm here as an ambassador at the same time for mainly for my Arcturian delegation, but also I work and collaborate with a great many other delegations, Donald, whether it's the Andromedan, whether it's the Syrians, whether it's the those from Alpha Centauri, the Lyrans, the High Council of the Pleiadians, I mean, name it. We're engaged with many of these beautiful star groups.
Well, let me ask you this. So when was it exactly did you have your actual, I call it the awakening, right? Because you have that awakening moment in your life, because as young children, you know, and then as we grow into teenagers, and then we get into adulthood, young adulthood, older adulthood, when we're teenagers, we're kind of, our minds are going 150 miles an hour, right? And we're just kind of just not really there. But some people get their awakening early, or some people get it later in life, right? So I'm asking you this. So when did your actual awakening happen for you in that moment, to know that you were connecting with the Arcturians and you were part of that being?
It's a great question, Donald. So in my case, it's the other way around. I came already knowing who I am.
Okay.
And so I will remember instances, even at a very young age as a child. I would look around me, observing. I was observing a lot the human behavior, how other children behave with each other. What is the interactions between adults and children, the interaction into the educational field. Like, I remember many instances standing at recess in elementary school at recess time, the kids are screaming and they come outside with balls, and then they want to play tag of war, or they chase each other. Right. What was my pleasure, so to speak, was just to stand there watching these interaction, understanding why throwing a ball at each other induce pleasure. It felt illogical to me. Right. Why racing after each other seems to invoke deep joy of screaming and other form of expression. Why is there so much conflict between children? Right. Instead of encouraging more of a collective consciousness? Why more putting energy on the individual expression rather than the common group of the group? So these are all these thought process that run through my mind. And at the same time, I am in communication and symbiotic communication with my Arcturian father and my delegation, and they coach me. Well, this is how human beings relate to each other. just go play, feel, let your physical vessel interact, see what happens. So I have learned this way. I will remember even in high school, sitting in a classroom, watching my French teacher talking, and I can feel her energy. I can feel that one particular adult had a lot of passion to teach children, and I found it fascinating from her.
Wow.
And how the others would respond to her in terms of or disconnected or either, have an hormonal influence or something going on. But I was always been in that state of awareness. Now, to your point, has my awareness increased over time? Yes.
Right.
And I would say one of the pivotal time for me was mainly when I was in my early 20s. I would say around between 2021.
Okay.
This is where my delegation father came, my Octarian father, and he said, now we're going to prepare you for the next phase of your mission. And so I get into body upgrades, and then my consciousness would shift, and then I would, I can feel that I was getting prepared for what was coming for the next part of the journey, and went off to college and then work, and I did explore a multitude of what you would call normal 3D arenas, like school or higher education or having a job and moving out of your parents' house, having your first apartment.
Right.
But all of these experiences were stepping stone to allow me to identify how things are evolving within this field. And we were also monitoring at the same time how the global consciousness of humanity was also shifting. Where were the blockages? What is the influence? How things are shifting? I mean, if you look at, for example, late 80s, 90s, the word hybrids were either for sci-fi novels, movies, or if you have a private group or really you love science fiction and you talk about the possibility of seeing craft in the sky and how hybrids, how that can play out. But you were not talking about it as openly as it is today.
Right.
So we have to wait patiently in parallel to the conscious collective of humanity to evolve to this point where certain linguistic, like hybrids, extraterrestrial, first contact, disclosure, have a different understanding to it, and it has evolved in the semantics meaning of it. So this is why for the last 12 years I have been much more public, because now it was time for me to emerge on a more public scene to allow the next level of interactions to say, hey, you've been looking a lot in your sky, but at the same time you have a lot on the ground with you.
Right.
And part of us is, I am here with you, and I know that my look is very convincing. They did a great job to create this vessel, but I am who I am. I am this Octarian being, and we're here to supporting you, remembering who you are. So we are a future example of the potential of yourself reflecting back to you. That's mainly, if I want to summarize it in a positive light, for our delegation, this is what we're here to do, to help you remembering really who you are.
Does the when you connected to knowing that you're Octarian, right? Do you get that when you meditate, or are you it comes naturally, like at a frequency in a sense, right? Like you really feel it, you know it, and when you're, I guess, maybe asleep in a subconscious kind of state, does it come to you stronger that way, or it just kind of naturally flows through you? How does that work for you?
That's a good point. I like you described it different ways. So first, it's very organic.
Okay.
The best way I can answer this question, and I'll elaborate more, of course, is when I look in the mirror, or like I speak with you right now and your audience, behind the eyes, I know this is an Octarian being looking through the eyes of this humanized form. And I know the way I think, the way I feel, the way I communicate, the way I interpret the world or reality or certain concept. You can tell that this is this being talking with you. And I
Right.
know this is how I feel. So it's very natural. It's organic. It's always been a state of beingness.
Right.
And of course, there will be stands where I can feel much more when my Octurian avatar self come in and I see sometime even physically what happened. I do have a sensory or physical experience to it, where one time I was outside talking with a friend on right in the driveway of my house, and I can feel my Arcturian self coming in, and my friend physically witnessed me getting taller. Like, you know, in this human form, I'm 5'9" in this form, but I was getting like I was 6'8"
Wow.
tall. And she was looking at me that way, and I was looking at her like the ground was shrinking down. So my Arcturian self and my Arcturian father said they were coaching me. Allow yourself to go through this full-blown experience, because you're remembering, even at a cellular level, you're remembering who you really are. And that part of you is starting to merge more and more with your human expression. And then I physically saw myself like I was shrinking down to my 5'9", and my friend is about 5'2", and I'm like, you're growing taller. And she said, no, you're the one getting smaller. And I was coming back into readjusting my physical form to that presence of where I am, as people know me today in that sense. And I came back and I understood that as we were witnessing with each other what took place,
Right.
that my Arcturian group was opening the space around me, and we were no longer in linear time. So they were allowing me to remembering, you know, with awakened consciousness, with eyes open,
Right.
physically experiencing that this is who I am. So they do that sometimes as a point of remembrance, just to help me, because sometimes I get so immersed in my mission, my work,
Right.
and then of course the human understanding, emotionally, empathic response, you know, mental energy, physical energies. The team come and tap me on the shoulder and says, remember, even though you go through all of this, you're still one of us.
Right.
Remember that. And that was a very profound, another profound moment, Donald, when I physically got this reminder that I am this Arcturian being. No matter how convincing my human face looks like, I am still one of them. And I'm here on a very, very specific mission. And it's a really huge endeavor of love to be here on a planet.
Well, let's learn a little bit more about the Arcturian, right? And so let's talk about the originated species, right, of where you came from as Arcturian. And I want to ask you this question too, because we always go back, and of course us as humans, we go back to the Anunnaki and the Sumerians and their text, and they talked about, you know, these beings that came down and they were from another planet and they came and landed here. Now, is this some kind of connection to where did this actually happen, or are we kind of, as humans, going a little on a different kind of trajectory here, so to speak? You know what I mean? Did this, was this the Anunnaki sort of like a part of the Arcturians? Do they, in other words, do they coexist? What I want to say.
Okay. It's a multi-layered question, but we understand what you mean. So let's explore. And I love the slide, the originated species. So let's go beyond your race and this earth plane. There are multiple, more than you realize, species, or how we like to call them, intergalactic civilizations.
Okay.
The Anunnaki is one of them, just like the Dracos, the reptilians, those who come. There's a multitude of species coming from Orion. There's a multitude of species coming from the Zeta Reticuli, Alpha Centauri, Vega, the constellation of Lyra, and so on and so on and so on. Of course, Andromeda is a huge one. So what you see right now in pertaining to the original seeding of your planet or the human race, yes, the human race contained in the original DNA template a multitude of intergalactic markers. So to us, we see the human race as galactic royalties because your profound origin has a multitude of points of reference to other species, and including the advanced Pleiadians who have contributed to the DNA template. Arcturians, we have a different philosophy and roles, in the sense that first we have a non-interference philosophy, meaning that we will never interfere in the evolutionary or the karmic evolution of a civilization, right, whether they're humans or non-humans. It makes no difference to us. So what we have done is, since we came across this quadrant within the Milky Way a very long time ago, we've been monitoring the process and the progress of how many, many other species have come to your planet, contribute to the human template. But we have brought information or genetic information onto the planet well before all of this began. So think of us as more almost like the master Zen behind the scenes. Some people call us the grandparents, and that makes me smile. But we have a different approach. So the Anunnaki are a very distinct group on their own. They have a different mentality, different evolution, different agendas, different, knowledge that has nothing to do with us. It's just another species that exists in the multiverse. And for the Arcturians, we have been bringing in genetic codes and vital information onto the planet, into the ecosystem, well before the Anunnaki came and all this energy came down. So let's just say that our involvement is on a different timeline than what the Anunnaki did. And of course, today, if we fast forward into the generation of who you are today, what we are doing is we're helping, along with other very spiritually enlightened groups, we're helping the human template to return into the original celestial self. So what it means is that as you are evolving in spiritual maturity, stability, and consciousness, you start to understand the decoding of your DNA template and the quantum consciousness of it, and you start to be able to tap into this galactic origin or the galactic heritage and be able to say, I'm going to keep that marker and I'm going to turn off the others. So there's some aspect of the markers in your DNA that you'll be able to release and then only keep that. It's helping you to really shift as a cosmic being. One thing we must point out, if you allow us, Donald.
Yes.
Thank you. It's that it's going to be very important overall for human beings on this planet to understand that you are truly part, as an equal part, of a very, very vast intergalactic, interdimensional communities. And the human race needs to step forward, reclaim their cosmic origin. There's nothing mystery about it anymore. You are part of a very vast evolution. You're part of a very large association of worlds. And the Earth is only one planet, many among so many. And start to open yourself more onto universal mind. So when you see craft in the sky, like balls of light or something like orbs or shape, whether it's triangular shape or cigar shape or the classic flying saucer, silver disc, or whatever object that you see. Our invitation for you is, number one, acknowledge it as a true phenomenon. It is normal phenomenon. Number two, we invite you to connect to the consciousness of the occupants instead of being stuck on the object itself.
Right.
It's really about cultivating this cosmic consciousness, communicating with another cosmic consciousness. And that what happen is that it'll help you to open up a more universal language, a more universal approach to not third dimensional, but more encounter of the third kind, fourth kind, fifth kind, and opening that way. It helps you to move beyond some of the barriers that's been put in the UFO field. And that will be some of the wisdom we'd like to share.
I just talked about that the other day, as a matter of fact. My last podcast, by the way. So I talked about, as when I was growing up and just kind of wondering when I saw the extraterrestrial craft up in the sky, when I've seen a few, right? And I brought the attention to everyone as to where when we actually, as a human form, seeing this extraterrestrial craft up in the sky, we're wondering, and we're just looking at the craft, right? But we never, what you just said, we never wonder what's inside the craft or who's piloting this craft, right? And I believe that when we do these CE5 connections, right, and when these people make contact, in that sense that they tell the craft, can you move to the left or can you blink? And it's actually listening to you, and it's way up there, right? So it's connected to your consciousness already, right? And that's how it's communicating with you. So in reality, you're talking to the pilot or being inside of this craft, and that's how you're communicating with it. Now, when you're doing this as us as humans, once we make that connection, I'm going to ask you this question. Once we make this connection, does that connection stay within our frequency, within us? In other words, to you as that person, to where you can actually make contact again and they will answer?
Actually, it's a fantastic question, because what it does, it does increase your field of receptivity. So every time you initiate a more higher consciousness connection, when you ask a craft or an object, okay, power up, show us that you're there. And as a response, you know that you've established a first level of response.
Right.
Now, the next level is move beyond asking the craft to move in any desired position. Ask more in terms of the beings, I wish to establish a positive connection to you.
Right.
And you can utilize the protocols, asking the beings, are you of the highest light? And ask that 3 times in a row. Bring authority, bring your light. It's one being connecting with another. It doesn't matter if physically they're completely different from you or what planet or system they come from. There's a universal language they will understand. So if these craft come, and some of them can be just observer, neutral, scientists, they can be also just monitoring the evolution of where are you on the planet, where are you on a consciousness, and some of them, well, they do have other ideas in mind. So establishing that protocol allow them to see that they're dealing and they're looking at a very intelligent species communicating to a protocol. And I always encourage people, with whether it's an experience in your bedroom, whether you felt you in this astral plane, meaning dream states, whether you're driving on the road at night and there's a craft and you start to feel the craft wants to stay there, wants to get your attention, get your protocol. Ask, are you of the highest light? 3 times in a row. It is well known. I teach that to my clients. It is a very well-known protocol, because the frequency that you are emanating at that point, you're really redefining the quality of what that species or that conscious connection may take place. So that's number 1. Number 2, one other loving advice we can bring from a nocturne perspective is clear self, clear your memory field and your subconscious field from the fear of gray energy. Why? That's because you've been so programmed by media, documentaries, movies, and for generations, especially since the Roswell crash in 1947, that everything has to be around, zeta reticuli, whether it's the big head with the big eyes or looking in a certain way. So your subconscious and your global conscious field is imprinted with the energy around grace. Now, I said that as a loose label. Why? Because the word gray will invoke different things to everyone, but there are so many multi-species even within that label of grays. There's so many of them. Some of them are extremely ancient. They're very tall. They're one of the most ancient beings in the universe.
Yeah.
And they have nothing to do with those who've been interfering with your planet for so long. So that's one of the things that needs to be released yourself from, to reteach your nervous systems, your ability on a conscious level to understand and accept different forms. Now, if you were to see a true Arcturian, you would go, whoa, you got nothing to do. You look nothing like the grays. But your subconscious would say anything with a round head or bigger eyes, it's gray energy.
Right.
That's a big one to clear and heal yourself from, so that you can travel, understanding your own human connection to the cosmos, and how many multitude of consciousness are really listening. Some of them have nothing to do to the humanoid form. Others will look very different from you. We cannot be put in the same bag as the Greys, though, or the Reptilians or the Draconians. That's part of the deprogramming, the unwinding
Right.
Around a UFO connection, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I believe, like I said, that there's thousands of these crafts that flying above our atmosphere. I mean, we catch them all the time. I have a good friend, Anibal Quiñones Caballero. He point his camera at the sky, and he's got these beautiful filters, and they're just one after another after another. There's thousands of these things up there, right? And they're constantly watching. And then there's some different sort of biological looking craft as well, right? That kind of shape shift a little bit. And I kind of think about that these biological forms of these UFOs that we call them, or UAPs, that they tend to they connect with us in a sense to where, of course, we're trying to figure out if there's a pilot in there or not. Some of us do or don't, but to where, how do we know who we're talking to, or when you're asking it if it's a good one or it's not a good one, do they take off? Do they just leave, or do they just not respond? And then, what's your take on, like, if you were to, like, I've made a couple of films, right, and on documentaries on some folks that have had bad experiences with these things, right? And how do you know how to accept this and how to let it go, in other words, to where you don't want that certain extraterrestrial to come back to you again?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So how to make a discernment to how to initiate positive conscious connections with other cosmic intelligence, and those that you want to avoid. For one thing that is very important is your approach, meaning that there cannot be any fear. So clear the fear out of your field.
Okay.
Fear, anxiety, they're not stronger, more powerful, or superior as you are than you. I mean, that's only because they simply have mastered certain universal principle and knowledge over thousands of years, and your race is just younger, and you're evolving back in that place. So first, you yourself in the same empowerment field is, I am too a sentient life form.
Okay.
So it's one sentient life form connecting to another. Yes, they may have knowledge of gravity, and they have a knowledge of organic craft, and they have technology that defy your imagination for now, but this is really not irrelevant, because the true technology is the science of consciousness.
Okay.
When you start to understand who you want to connect with and who you want to avoid, it's nothing to do with a technology. If they comes to you constantly with their craft, different shape of form, lighting, and all of it, you can say, okay, we passed that. What I'm interested is connecting to the consciousness behind it. And if you have nothing else to offer me but technology, I'm not interested. Okay. This is no longer about a technology. It's about the consciousness.
Right.
Take the enlightened ones, like the high Pleiadians, ourselves, the Arcturians, the Sirians, we have other things to do than just to show us our craft. We're more interested in connecting with you directly as point of contact so we can share our wisdom and our knowledge with you. So most likely you will not see as many Arcturian ships that way because we're too busy monitoring in proximity to the planet and in the corridor within the planetary system right here in your solar system. Yeah. We're too busy monitoring who enters your field and who doesn't, rather than show us our craft in the sky to you. We're more interested into making contact directly to your consciousness so we can get you acquainted with our frequencies and helping you to shift into a higher state of empowerment. And there's many, many groups who feel the same way. Now, there will be other groups who are more neutral. They're not necessarily negative or nefarious. They're just more neutral. Right. And yes, they're just a little bit higher in terms of technology, understanding of universal laws, universal mechanism. And they come to you and their craft, and they make contact. And they watch to see how humans react. They watch to see how you're utilizing, armory, how you're utilizing like nuclear technology, or how are you utilizing different form of technology that may either arm yourself and arm others, or it can be done in a very advanced way that can contribute and protect your planet. That's probably their role, to come and monitor where are you in your progress. Those you will see more craft, because this is what they come to do. And there will be those who will present themselves to you and they have no interest in communicating with you. They're here to study, to get what they want, what they need, and they leave. Now, how do you know it? That's why it's important to establish a protocol.
Right.
And to understand also to know that these sentient life forms, let's call them, interstellar species, these sentient life forms evolve well beyond this Earth, this constellation. They have a different protocol, different outlook. They don't have the same emotional component as you. They don't have the same moral put in place that, I cannot enter your house without your permission. We understand that because we understand how you function. We never enter your house if you're not invited. Right. But these beings may travel through the walls and connect with you at night. There's no violation to them. They don't understand the barrier. They don't understand the distinction of the protocols and the morality and what is acceptable from a human perspective. So you can't think as a 3D human. You have to think as a cosmic being communicating with another one who comes from a different aspect of creation. And they simply don't have the same protocol as you do. So we see that a lot with contactees or experiencers. Right. There was a violation, or they did that, they entered my house without permission. But you're thinking as a 3D Earth human. They don't understand that.
Yeah, I guess their thinking is more like, I'm going to do this, and that's it. It's not like our critical thinking or just our thinking as of course, like humans, right? We think, why are you here? Who invited you in? Kind of things like that. And just like you said, they'll come in, they'll come through the walls, they'll come through the doors, they'll just come through the ceiling if they want to, and because their agenda is totally different than what you're trying to do, or your species is trying to do, right? So it's like, I believe there's almost like they're more like takers. They're more like a taker. I'm going to take it, or I'm going to do what I want. Yours is more like, I'm giving you knowledge. I'm giving you ways to open your consciousness. I'm giving you everything that you can to be a better person, right? So there's like I said, there's a giver and a taker. And I believe that's what separates the Arcturian with the gray, or with any different kind of species that comes in and does these to people, right? Because I've interviewed a lot of people. I've spoken to people one-on-one. They've cried to me. I've talked to them because they wanted me to understand exactly what happened to them. And me, I'm a helper. I love to help people as much as possible, just like you're doing here today. But I just want people out there to understand that this is the difference between those two. Let's just say the universal connection, in a sense, to where you're able to connect and give us more of a positive outcome, right? That's basically what it is?
Oh, absolutely right on. You can feel already that we are the great ambassadors of the universe. Our turns are really known. Whenever there is a conflict or there's a next level of life evolving on a planet or a new planet coming in, oftentimes the Star Regency Council will ask us to deploy an aspect of our delegations to go and connect with and assess, bring, assistance as it needs to be. And we are very, very ancient beings, just like the Andromedans are. There's many others. We're not the only ones. But we're the ones who are the most, I would say, whose frequencies are starting to be more recognized on the planet, because you have reached that point. The difference about the other beings who simply have evolved in different sphere of consciousness, different methodology, they just exist outside a different way of being and evolving. It's like saying, let's say that you go visit a good friend of yours and you have children, let's say 7, 8 years old children, and they run in their house, run to the fridge, open the fridge, grab something to drink or a snack. No big deal. What's the difference? That's because at that level of purity, hey, it's a friend of that. I mean, it's familiar. I can go. And then you said, no. We're somebody's house here. We cannot just grab to the fridge without permission. You have to ask, can I please something to get to drink? Can I please have a snack? Can I go watch TV?
Right.
Then you learn as you grow older that there's certain protocol you have to observe. Right. Well, these beings, I want to add that they recognize you at a soul level. What if in a part of your soul ancestry, maybe you have been part of that species a long time ago, and you made a contractual agreement that says, okay, I'm going to send out a soul fragment of myself. I'm going to bring myself into the human experience. I'm going to embody a biological human form. I'm going to live, think, feel as a human.
Right.
But to them, they don't see you as a human. They see you who you are at a soul level. They remember you.
Right.
And says 1,000 years ago, you were part of that alliance, and you told us, when I come back in the human form, I'm going to support genetically your species so you can continue to evolve and avoid extinction. So they come the genetic material that they need. But to you forgot, because part of the human experience is those veil of forgetfulness.
Right.
So it felt very intrusive. And I do respect that. I have compassion. I am here physically on the planet with you. I do understand the delicate balance between how you feel and how these sentient life forms will think. So what do? Arcturians, and we come and we teach them. We coach those species. Look, when you come in human form, when you come to interact with humans, even though you remember them as one of yours, or you remember them as part of the alliance, or you remember them into that timeline, in this lifetime, the dynamic has shifted. So we coach them. We've done countless of time coaching species who come to the earth and remember certain groups or want to communicate directly. And we say, well, when you are in the sphere of existence, you have to have certain protocol.
Right.
Because otherwise you can disrupt the human body or the nervous systems or the immune system or create trauma at a subconscious level. And they go like, why are we creating trauma? It doesn't understand. We have no frame of reference behind that to understand that concept. They have no frame of reference to understand that. So we come and we teach them.
Okay. So you guys are pretty much the guardians of the good, right? Pretty much just trying to show the world and teach everything of good. Now, I got one more question for you.
Of course.
So we've heard this from the past, and they've talked about it over and over in our governments and in the news and everything about the Federation of Galactic Guardians of a sense, right? Not guardians, but like a federation of galactic beings that have some sort of a treaty amongst each other, and they they have sort of like a treaty with the United States as well, right? It's like with us as human beings, I guess I want to say it that way. Has this taken place? Is it taking place now? And is it going to be around for a long time?
It's a great question. So again, multi-layered. It has been taking place for a lot longer than you realize. So I'll give you an example of this. A long time ago, we, the Octurians, a delegation of us, approached the UN, and we approached the government of the world. And we want to bring in our knowledge, not our technology, because our technology is more organic based and it's very advanced. We are well known for our technology in the universe. Octurians ships are known to be extremely powerful and effective, but it has to be done with the understanding of what you are looking at to prevent destroying yourself, right, to prevent to destroy other planets, what we have witnessed in our history. And it's a tragedy to lose a planet more than you realize. Yeah. So we have approached many layers of government a long time ago. And a group of delegations of Octurians, I remember clearly, have memory of it. And we were turned down because we were not bringing technology to advance their agenda.
Well, that makes sense.
We said
that does make sense. Well, keep going.
Well,
keep going.
Yeah, but what we did, we said, okay, thank you for allowing us to show who you are and what influence are behind you. You have to think about it's not just about the humans on this planet. It's those who are behind it. About the Draconian, the reptilians, and all these other more, let's call it denser beings who come and take their resources, feed about what they want, and maintain their so-called authority. And so when they saw us coming, they went like, oh, not Octurians, not here, because they know what we're capable of. And we said, we bring first diplomatic approach.
Right.
We're great diplomats. And we're going to bring you the knowledge that will help to uplift your planet and yourself to the point you're going to accelerate your evolution and get you out of that completely illusionary time linear construct. And of course, all this entanglement that put the human race down for generations.
Right.
But because we were not offering and we refused to bring technology at the time, we were turned down. And then other groups who came through and says, well, we'll volunteer to bring the technology, like a funny fun device like this and computerized gadget and all kind of fun stuff. We'll bring you technology, but in exchange, we have a cost. We're going to ask you for this, and that.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, the timeline has been put in that way. This is where you're here today. You are in that timeline where you're here today because that potential, the timeline potential that we came in to offer was denied. And we're not the only ones who did that. So what did we do? We went to the population instead. So we have a multitude of point of contact on the planet who will say, oh, yes, I know the Octurians, or I know an aspect of them. I work with them. I channel them in my work. I always been in communication with them. They're teaching me some aspects. So what we do is that we deployed our field or a network of knowledge over the planet through our point of contact to human beings who are more evolved, more spiritually awakened, and are here as point of anchor. And so we did it that way instead.
Wow.
And this is why we're no longer interacting with governments until things are going to change again, because you are in a pivotal time on your planet.
Right.
But for the time being, we went through the population worldwide, and we still have our ship in proximity to this planet, to the Earth, and we're here to monitor. And I can tell you, we're like, think of us as a great gardener. We're pulling out weeds out of your atmosphere.
There you go.
Like, no access to your planet. No.
Yeah.
Unless you are showing a willingness to change. The same thing with many alliances or councils we're a part of. There's a lot of alliances out there, the different hierarchy council that monitor different aspects of the multiverse, including the sector here. That a part of us is assigned to this sector, and other part of ourselves are assigned to other sectors. So the same thing, we work in partnership with those who are in the same, I would say, state of consciousness.
Right. And that's perfect. That's a perfect way to talk about that way, you know, because that's what it is. It's consciousness, and when we're and you're bringing a lot of awakening moments to a lot of people, and you're helping people, and I'm glad you're doing that. So our conversation has come to an end, unfortunately, but thank you so much for all your information on everything that you have. How can people get a hold of you?
Thank you for asking. And our time went so quickly. It's incredible. I feel like today we really went into the core essence of what real disclosure encounter connection is about. And to know that there's so many other sides to it than what you've been told over and over again.
Right.
So how to connect with us? To me, I always speak as a collective, as a we. My website is Infinite Healing from thestars.com. I do have an online Arcturian community with membership. Every month with the members, we do teachings, meditations. We have the Arcturian holographic group healing, which is a monthly series. And we also have the Arcturian Healing Arts program. We just finished the program in April. I'm going to resume it again, most likely in the fall. And there's much more teaching coming through. We're working behind the scenes on other projects. So sign up to our newsletter to keep up to date. There'll be much more, and we are evolving. We are truly evolving alongside with you. And really fun fact, I'm going to be speaking at a seminar I see called Galactic Origins. That is December 14th to the 21st, leaving from the port of Orlando, Florida, with many other amazing speakers. And we're going to be traveling right along the Mayan line, a timeline with Cozumel, Belize, and other places. And we're going to be talking, experimenting, and offering all about galactic origins.
Wow.
So let's embrace who we are.
Wonderful. Well, what I'll do is I'll put the links up to this podcast on the audio and the video after we're done today, where people can find you. And then, you know, hopefully we can get you back on again, and we'll have another really good, deep conversation like we just did. It was amazing. Like I said, thank you for giving us a lot of disclosure and a lot of things that, you know, some things we just don't think about sometimes, you know, but I'm a deep thought kind of person. You know, I'm always outside the box and just kind of, I'm all over the place, but I've had my awakening moment, you know, and I've kind of opened myself up to everything is possible, right? And all good is possible as long as you're an acceptance of bringing it all to you as far as that awakening, right? But thank you so much for being on the show, Viviane, today, and we'll get you back on again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, well, stand in the background, and I'll get back with you just a minute, okay? All right, guys. Thank you for watching this amazing podcast today. It was awesome. And, you know, we talked very deeply about the universe and the connection with the Arcturians and all the work she does. And everything that she does is for the good and for the good of us all, right? So just kind of remember that. And you know, I'm going to put a lot of links to her pages and everything. So if you want to get in contact with her, go to her web pages or I'm sure she's got a YouTube and a couple of Facebook pages. But thank you guys for just chiming in a little bit. You know, I know it was deep, but it was a great podcast. I really appreciate you guys hanging with us today. Ryan Keaton, Angela, and David Aliff, man, thank you guys for being in the background. It doesn't show anybody else. If you're back there, hey, I'm sorry. But, hey, thank you for watching today's show. I really appreciate you guys. It was a great one. I hope you guys got a lot of information as much as I did. Don't forget to catch our podcasts that are coming up here soon. And, you know, we're going to be in Florida. I'm going to be in Florida July 15th through the 18th. On our conference, right? So I will be there in a meet and greet. You'll be able to watch the middle part 2 over there, and you know, I'll be signing some books as well. All right, so until then, you guys have yourselves a good day, have yourselves a good evening, and have yourselves a good night.
Join your fellow Starseeds, Lightworkers, and Experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference, this July 15th to 18th. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, Secret Space Program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure Movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.